Do you know the taste of a cursed spirit? It's like a mop that has wiped the floor. Yet this man still insisted on swallowing the cursed spirit to help everyone. In this video, we not only witnessed the birth of the invincible Gojo Satoru, but also saw how Geto Suguru turned dark during the mission. In the complex and intertwined Shibuya incident, no one could remain uninvolved, not even Gojo Satoru. The story begins in a castle where Meimei and Yori Utahime were ordered to carry out a mission. After a simple search of the rooms, the two unwittingly fell into a cursed spirit's looping barrier. They tried to create a breach by varying their running speeds, but just then, the entire castle began to collapse. It turned out that Gojo Satoru and others had arrived. Yori Utahime was trapped under a rock, and Gojo Satoru, seeing this, began to mock her. Yori Utahime became furious upon hearing this. Just as she was about to react, a cursed spirit suddenly appeared behind her. "Don't swallow it! Let me absorb it a bit more!" Geto Suguru's cursed spirit instantly devoured it. The group successfully completed the mission, but then they suddenly realized that they had not lowered the curtain during the mission. This would inevitably impact the outside world. Yaga was very angry when he learned of this, and soon punished the three on the spot. At that time, Gojo Satoru was very rebellious, but Geto Suguru was a very kind high school student. He always adhered to the principle that sorcerers should protect non-sorcerers. The two often fought over this. Just then, Yaga arrived there, and he received a new mission, which was to protect Lord Tengen's new body. Although Tengen possesses an immortality technique, he is not ageless. If a suitable new host is not found at the right time, Lord Tengen will evolve into a higher realm, and at that time, his consciousness will no longer exist. All of the sorcery barriers at Jujutsu High would be affected. Therefore, every 500 years, Lord Tengen must assimilate with a human compatible with his star plasma body. As long as the body is rejuvenated, all barriers will also be reset. So now, the task of Gojo Satoru and Geto Suguru is to protect that star plasma body girl. The main enemies trying to kill her now are two factions, the Curse Group and the Panstar Cult. In Lord Tengen's eyes, only Gojo Satoru and Geto Suguru are capable of this mission. Then the two came to the girl's residence, and the moment Geto Suguru pressed the doorbell, a bomb inside exploded. The girl flew directly out of the window. The Curse Group thought the girl was doomed, but just then, they suddenly saw Geto Suguru had already rescued the target. On the other side, Gojo Satoru was still on the phone, but just then, countless steel knives flew towards him. Bairu had long heard of Gojo Satoru's terror, and today he just wanted to test it. Gojo Satoru made a harsh statement, "As long as you apologize crying, I will spare your life." That's the rule. This is a cursed spirit that desperately wants to be loved. Whenever she encounters a man, she crazily demands kisses, leaving the man sweating profusely. Just now, Gojo Satoru and Geto Suguru successfully rescued the star plasma body. The two returned her to the hotel. Just then, Amanai Riko suddenly woke up. One would have thought she would be saddened by becoming a vessel, but Riko's mindset was surprisingly positive. Meanwhile, in an attempt to assassinate Riko, the Panstar Cult offered 30 million to hire Fushiguro Toji. Even though he knew his opponent was the once-in-a-century genius Gojo Satoru, Toji appeared quite confident. He planned to start his operation after the bounty hunters had worn down the opposition. On the other side, Riko quickly returned to school after recovering. However, it was at this moment that the cursed spirit sent by Geto Suguru to monitor the situation was suddenly removed. The trio hurried to the school. As Geto Suguru ran into a corridor, an old man suddenly blocked his path. This man possessed the same type of sorcery as Geto Suguru. In just a few seconds, the old man came up with 1,000 combat strategies. Just as he was about to implement his plan, Geto Suguru released a massive cursed spirit. The initial smaller spirits were to distract him, weren't they? The old man was instantly engulfed. Geto Suguru thought the battle was over, but the next moment, the old man suddenly jumped in through a window. Then, he entered the illusionary realm set by Geto Suguru. By the time the old man realized this, Geto Suguru had already knocked him unconscious. On the other side, Riko was still in class at a church. However, just then, Gojo Satoru suddenly burst in. Everyone was baffled at first, but in the next moment, all the female students were mesmerized by his stunning beauty. Even the teacher was subdued by Gojo Satoru's charm. The duo took advantage of the chaos to slip out of the school. Geto Suguru also learned that Amanai Riko had been put up for a bounty by the Panstar cult, so he quickly called Gojo Satoru. By this time, the two were already surrounded by bounty hunters. Riko initially thought this was a kind of Shikigami technique, but Gojo Satoru immediately recognized it as a cloning technique. The user could switch their real body among the clones, making it easy to launch a sneak attack. Even so, Gojo Satoru didn't take his opponents seriously. The man was shocked to hear this and realized he was no match for Gojo Satoru. Just as he was about to turn and run, Gojo Satoru suddenly shattered the glass in front of him. The man was hiding behind the glass. Gojo Satoru formed a hand seal with one hand and initiated a technique reversal. As the man braced for death, Gojo Satoru's technique unexpectedly failed. At this moment, he was also puzzled. But just then, Riko's phone suddenly received a message. Misato had been kidnapped. The supposedly invincible Gojo Satoru had been brutally killed by the tyrannical Fushiguro Toji. The two had met once when Gojo Satoru was young, and that was the only time Toji had been discovered in the shadows. Just recently, Gojo Satoru and others had successfully rescued Amanai Riko. But at that moment, Misato was kidnapped by the Panstar cult. It was expected to be a difficult rescue, but the trio quickly managed to save her. Led by Gojo Satoru, everyone then went to a seaside location. They wanted Riko to enjoy life before being assimilated. Gojo Satoru, in order to ensure the safety of the star plasma vessel, stayed awake for 2 days and nights. After everyone returned to the Jujutsu High School, Gojo Satoru finally relaxed his tense nerves. Just as they were about to deliver Riko to Tengen, Gojo Satoru's chest was suddenly pierced by a blade. Everyone stood frozen in shock at the scene. The assailant was Fushiguro Toji, sent by the Panstar cult. After a long period of waiting and wearing down his opponent, Toji had finally seized the moment when Gojo Satoru was off guard. Gojo Satoru quickly created distance between himself and his attacker, while Geto Suguru seized the opportunity to summon a cursed spirit to devour him. Although Toji caught him off guard, Gojo Satoru was not seriously harmed. He instructed Geto Suguru to take Amanai Riko away from the area first. A fierce exchange of blows quickly ensued. Gojo Satoru initiated a powerful technique right away. Toji, attempting to close in at high speed, was unexpectedly repelled by Gojo Satoru's technique. The fight moved into a residential area where Toji's speed increased once again. Gojo Satoru could not detect any cursed energy on him, so he used a curse technique to destroy the entire area, preventing Toji from launching a surprise attack. At that moment, a swarm of cursed spirits emerged from the forest, surrounding Gojo Satoru and obscuring Toji's location. Just when Gojo Satoru thought Toji was targeting Riko, Toji appeared suddenly from the side. Before Gojo Satoru could react, Toji's cursed tool was already plunged into him. Gojo Satoru was completely incapacitated, and thus the invincible Gojo Satoru was easily taken down by Fushiguro Toji. Meanwhile, Geto Suguru, with Amanai Riko, reached the Hoshiomiya, the main barrier of Jujutsu High. As long as Riko reached the base of the Great Tree, she could wait for Tengen's assimilation. However, at that moment, Geto Suguru suggested that Riko could also choose to leave, emphasizing that everyone has the right to choose their own life path. Hearing this, Riko burst into tears, not wanting to lose her current life. Just as Riko was about to leave with Geto Suguru, a gunshot suddenly shattered the peace, and Riko fell to the ground. Geto Suguru was stunned, and just then, Fushiguro Toji appeared from the corridor. Upon hearing of Gojo Satoru's death, Geto Suguru was enraged and summoned a special grade cursed spirit, its terrifying power dragging Fushiguro Toji directly into the barrier. Just then, the two men's cursed spirits suddenly vanished. Geto Suguru had not expected that the opponent would know the entrance to the Hoshiomiya, as he had left no trace. However, at that moment, Toji stated that he could pinpoint a person's location using just his senses. Geto Suguru then launched another attack, and the Rainbow Dragon charged at Toji, causing massive destruction in the Hoshiomiya. Yet, these cursed spirits still could not inflict any damage. Toji effortlessly leapt into the air and with a single slash, split the rainbow dragon in two. Seeing this, Geto Suguru was shaken, realizing that even the incredibly tough rainbow dragon could not withstand his cursed tool. As the section of the bridge they were on began to collapse, suddenly a phantom wraith appeared behind Toji. It was Geto Suguru's special-grade cursed spirit, Split-Mouth Woman. By posing a question, she created a simple domain. Toji quickly understood the principle behind it and was about to answer when the Split-Mouth Woman instantly cut off Toji's hair, but in the next instant, Fushiguro Toji shattered the simple domain. Seeing this, Geto Suguru attempted to take advantage of the situation to control his cursed spirit. However, Fushiguro Toji instantly interrupted his casting. Immediately after, Toji switched to a new cursed tool and used it on Geto Suguru. At this moment, the bridge had completely collapsed and Geto Suguru had already lost consciousness. Then, Toji took the star plasma vessel to the Pan-Star cult. After the leader confirmed everything, he directly paid the bounty. They would never allow Lord Tengen to assimilate with humans. Only by transcending humanity could the Pan-Star cult ascend. Soon after, Toji left the place. Just as he was about to go out for a hearty meal, Gojo Satoru appeared before him again. Toji was shocked to see him. It turned out that Gojo Satoru had mastered the core of cursed energy in his dying moments, which allowed him to use a reverse curse technique to resurrect himself. The confrontation between the two began immediately. Toji launched the first attack, thinking his strike would hit. But just then, Gojo Satoru suddenly appeared behind him. With a sound, a terrifying burst of cursed energy sent Toji flying. This was the power of the reverse curse technique. Seeing this, Toji had no choice but to use all his strength. He pulled a new cursed tool from the mouth of his cursed spirit and immediately flung it at Gojo Satoru. But even though Gojo Satoru was stepping on thin air, he easily dodged it. At this moment, he seemed to be in a realm of his own. Although the Zenin family is very knowledgeable about limitless cursed techniques, the move Gojo Satoru used next was known by very few within the Gojo family. He formed a single hand seal, and in the next moment, a terrifying cursed energy gathered in his hand. As the technique approached him, Toji sensed the danger. Ultimately, the result was clear. Toji's body was completely destroyed. Gojo Satoru asked him if he had any last words, but Toji mentioned that there was a child he couldn't let go of. The boy was chatting happily with him 1 second, and the next, he was mercilessly killed by a cursed spirit. Geto Suguru, looking at Haibara's body, felt his anger reach its peak. Since the day the Star Plasma Vessel mission failed, he had been continuously convincing himself. But the events that followed had begun to shake his heart. At this time, Gojo Satoru had completely mastered the use of limitless cursed techniques. With the support of the reverse curse technique, he could maintain the activation of cursed techniques at any time. Gojo Satoru had become a formidable modern cursed technique user. Geto Suguru envied this, but he still silently carried out those unknown exorcisms of cursed spirits. Gradually, his mindset began to change, and the final decision was influenced by the special grade sorcerer, Tsukumo Yuki. This person was very special. Despite being a special grade sorcerer, she never accepted any missions and had ideas completely different from those of the Jujutsu High. She aimed to create a world without cursed spirits, and her methods involved either eliminating all humans' cursed energy or teaching everyone to control cursed energy. After hearing this, Geto Suguru was shocked, but it was Tsukumo Yuki's words that sparked a terrifying idea in his mind. Wouldn't it be simpler just to eliminate all non-sorcerers? Geto Suguru could not judge his own right or wrong, but if the end was a mountain of fallen comrades, he only had to abandon his former ideals. That night, Geto Suguru annihilated everyone in the village, including his own parents. Gojo Satoru was shocked when he learned of this, unable to believe that the gentle Geto Suguru he knew could have transformed into what he was today. However, the reality was that Geto Suguru had set himself on a path of no return. Following this, Geto Suguru approached the Pan-Star cult, aiming to achieve his goals, which required a vast amount of curses and money. Taking over the Pan-Star cult was the first step in accomplishing his objectives. Although he expected things to go smoothly, the upper echelon of the cult expressed their opposition. In response, Geto Suguru brought one of the elders onto the stage and, without hesitation, killed him, declaring, "Just obediently follow me. This is the true idea I have chosen." Thus began Geto Suguru's plan to eradicate all non-sorcerers. Meanwhile, Gojo Satoru found Megumi and told him about killing Toji. But Megumi felt nothing about this revelation, only wishing to live a happy life with his sister. However, the fate of the Zenin family bloodline meant that his life would not be so ordinary. The story then returns to the present, where Gojo Satoru is awakened by Yuji and two others. In that moment, it felt like a dream, but it was all a part of the real experiences of Gojo Satoru. 2.5 years later, Mahito uses his domain expansion again, instantly destroying Mekamaru's mecha. Just then, with the increasing number of special-grade curse spirits, Gojo Satoru realizes there is a mole in the Jujutsu High. He assigns Iori Utahime to handle the situation. After a few days of investigation, Utahime quickly identifies a suspect and brings Yuji and others in on it. Nobara quickly deduces that the mole is from the Tokyo campus. It was Mekamaru. The group then arrives at the target basement, expecting to find Mekamaru's body there. But upon opening the door, they discover Mekamaru has already left, confirming he is the mole. Simultaneously, Mahito and Kenjaku arrive at Mekamaru's location, as their information exchange has concluded, and Mekamaru's payment is the healing of his body by Mahito. Due to a binding vow, Mahito must heal him before he can eliminate him. Mahito slowly approaches Mekamaru, placing his hand on his head, and successfully restores Mekamaru's body. However, Mekamaru does not seem very happy, as he now has to face an attack from both men. Mahito initiates a curse, but Mekamaru summons numerous puppets to attack. However, Mahito dismisses them with a wave of his hand. Just as Mahito thinks the battle is over, the ground suddenly breaks apart, and a massive mecha, Mekamaru's ultimate form Zero, emerges from underwater. Excited, Mahito guesses that Mekamaru's real body is inside, and now, Mekamaru needs to urgently contact Gojo Satoru to potentially win this battle. First, he must eliminate Mahito. Mekamaru raises the mecha's arm and fires a powerful light cannon charged with a year's worth of cursed energy directly at Mahito, a blast of special-grade curse power that instantly destroys the dam, leaving Mahito with only facial burns. Mekamaru continued his attacks, but Mahito effortlessly dodged them all. Mekamaru realized that while his mecha's attacks could damage Mahito's physical body, they couldn't touch his soul. At that moment, he infused a special jutsu spell into the mecha. As Mahito was still in midair, Mekamaru shot him directly. Mahito thought it was just a typical attack, but in the next moment, his soul was suddenly shattered. The mecha then kicked Mahito away, and before he could react, Mekamaru delivered another kick to Mahito's real body, rendering him powerless to fight back. Seeing this, Mekamaru pressed his advantage, unleashing countless light cannons from inside the mecha. Mahito desperately tried to escape by constantly changing his form. At that moment, he still had 2 jutsu-filled bullets. Just as Mekamaru was about to launch a full-scale attack, Mahito suddenly activated his domain expansion, enveloping Mekamaru completely within it. The mecha lost power, but just as Mahito was about to turn and leave, the mecha behind him suddenly lit up again, and Mahito's body was instantly pierced. It turned out that Mekamaru had activated a simplified domain in those brief 2.5 minutes. Inside the domain, all jutsu were guaranteed to hit, which is why Mahito's body was damaged. Now, Mekamaru shifted his target to Kenjaku. Just as he was preparing to attack, Mahito suddenly charged into the mecha. At this point, Mekamaru had only one last curse technique and puppet left, but clearly they were no match for Mahito. After a brief battle, Mekamaru was defeated. The sky darkened with a black veil, countless people were swallowed by darkness, and the Shibuya incident in Tokyo officially began. 3 special-grade sorcerers mobilized to corner Gojo Satoru. But even so, Gojo Satoru did not take them seriously. Just moments ago, the entire Shibuya district was completely enveloped by this veil, trapping all citizens in a subway station. Upon hearing the news, Gojo Satoru hurried to the scene, but he discovered that the scale of this veil was not something ordinary people could achieve. Then, the Jujutsu High dispatched all its sorcerers to the location. The team was divided into squads and stood by for orders. However, as Yuji and Mei were preparing to head to the scene, another veil identical to Shibuya's descended on another Tokyo station. The two quickly arrived at another station, where 2 support staff had already been defeated, and there were several modified humans between the veils. Yuji now faced two choices: exercise a powerful cursed spirit or kill the weaker modified humans. After hearing this, Yuji fell silent, but Mei quickly made the decision for him, knowing that Yuji couldn't face the modified humans. After planning their strategy, the two began their operation. When Yuji reached the second basement level, the scene before him left him stunned. A cursed spirit resembling a locust was devouring humans. Yuji did not attack immediately. After a brief exchange, he learned that Mahito was maintaining the veil on the lower floor. Yuji then decided to first destroy the veil here. He swung a powerful punch at the cursed spirit's body, the force breaking through the wall. The cursed spirit then lunged at Yuji with astonishing bouncing power and biting force, shocking Yuji. Even so, he was confident that he could defeat the cursed spirit in front of him. The locust began to spread its wings, and in the next moment, it lunged at Yuji. What seemed like ordinary attacks were actually immensely powerful, yet the cursed spirit still couldn't hit Yuji. Then, both parties ceased their attacks. Yuji walked up to the cursed spirit, and they began to confront each other with their fists. The locust thought its 4 arms would surely overpower the opponent, but in just 2.5 minutes, Yuji completely defeated it. Next, the locust tried to launch a sneak attack with its abdomen, but in the next moment, Yuji swiftly dodged and then broke the locust's abdomen with a punch. Mahito's first veil was completely lifted. Meanwhile, Gojo Satoru was being held up by Jogo and Hanami. Due to the presence of non-sorcerers, Gojo Satoru couldn't use domain expansion. Jogo and the others thought to use the civilians nearby to threaten him, but Gojo Satoru didn't fall for it. He knew that to resolve this incident, some sacrifices were inevitable. Then, the three launched an attack on Gojo Satoru simultaneously, but he was not perturbed at all. He thought that their attacks couldn't touch him, but at that moment, Jogo and Hanami used a new technique. At the critical moment, Gojo Satoru successfully escaped the battlefield. It turns out the opposition used a simplified domain to envelop him. Although the guaranteed hit effect was reduced, it was precisely because of this that they could hit Gojo Satoru. Jogo finally saw a chance to defeat Gojo Satoru and began to taunt him. However, at that moment, Gojo Satoru still didn't take his opponents seriously. Then, an old friend appeared again. The familiar voice made Gojo Satoru freeze in place, and numerous memories flashed through his mind. At that moment, he wished that the person standing in front of him was Geto Suguru, but his rational mind pulled Gojo Satoru back to reality. Facing the attack of 2 special-grade curses, Gojo Satoru was completely at ease. He had now fully unleashed his limitless curses. Jogo and Hanami were no match for him. Then, at that moment, Gojo Satoru tore off Jogo's arm. Seeing this, Hanami wanted to deactivate the domain expansion, but Jogo quickly stopped him. Before Hanami could react, Gojo Satoru was already in front of him and promptly pulled out both of Hanami's horns. Seeing this, Jogo felt terrified. But at that moment, he and Hanami launched another sneak attack on Gojo Satoru. They thought this time the domain expansion would neutralize his techniques, but Gojo Satoru simply stopped pretending. He turned around and walked towards Hanami. His terrifying limitless curse technique pinned the opponent against the wall. Jogo tried to create a diversion by attacking from the side, but in the next moment, the special-grade curse spirit Hanami was forcefully eradicated by Gojo Satoru. Seeing this, Jogo hurriedly ran into the crowd. Choso also took the opportunity to launch a sneak attack, but it had no effect on Gojo Satoru. At this moment, Kenjaku still didn't want to use the domain because, in his view, Gojo Satoru's energy had hardly been depleted. Just then, Mahito arrived with a truckload of modified humans. Upon hearing this, Gojo Satoru immediately sensed trouble. Sure enough, as soon as the train doors opened, a large number of cursed spirits surged out from inside the train and began to wreak havoc on humanity. Choso and Mahito also joined in, and at this moment, Gojo Satoru was faced with an unprecedented choice: to let the cursed spirits go and first eliminate Jogo and the others, or to open his domain and annihilate everyone together. Just as Jogo and the others thought Gojo Satoru would choose the former, a voice rang out, "Unlimited Void." Gojo Satoru's domain instantly expanded, and everyone was caught in a state of complete stillness. This time, Gojo Satoru had to exorcise all the cursed spirits within 0.2 seconds, as this was the limit that non-sorcerers could withstand within the domain. Gojo Satoru frantically moved through the crowd, quickly resolving all the modified humans. At this moment, Gojo Satoru's energy was significantly depleted, and just as he was catching his breath, the sight of a special-grade cursed tool stopped him in his tracks. Suddenly, the domain expansion opened, and Gojo Satoru, intending to turn and leave, was taken aback as Kenjaku suddenly appeared behind him. Numerous memories flashed through Gojo Satoru's mind, but in the next moment, the domain expansion suddenly locked his body, rendering him unable to use his cursed energy. Kenjaku, intending to impersonate Geto Suguru and deceive him, was instantly seen through by Gojo Satoru, who knew that as long as he transferred his brain, he could continuously replace his physical body. Soon, the seal on Geto Suguru would be broken, and Kenjaku's main goal was to obtain his curse manipulation technique. Gojo Satoru's sealing plunged everyone into a desperate situation. Meanwhile, Yuji suddenly received a message from Mekamaru, a cursed speech left before his death. Gojo Satoru has been sealed. Can humans survive after their brains are replaced? The answer is yes. Kenjaku, occupying Geto Suguru's body, successfully locked Gojo Satoru using the domain expansion. Just as he was about to complete the sealing, a single sentence from Gojo Satoru awakened the body of Geto Suguru. Kenjaku was initially shocked, but soon he laughed. It was unexpected that Geto Suguru's body still harbored his will. Kenjaku controlled his right hand and in the next moment, completely sealed Gojo Satoru. After completing the seal, the biggest threat of this operation was neutralized. Just as Kenjaku and the others were preparing to leave, the domain expansion tool suddenly fell to the ground. Everyone was shocked. What a monster! It seems that physical time has not flowed. On the other side, Yuji and Mei received the news of Gojo Satoru's sealing. They quickly split up to take action. Mei stayed to resolve the remaining cursed spirits, while Yuji went out to inform his classmates at the Jujutsu High. Just as he was about to leave the tent, Mekamaru discovered new information. Kenjaku temporarily could not take the domain expansion tool out of here. What Yuji needed to do now was to urgently contact others to surround the area. At this moment, a large number of cursed spirits appeared outside the tent. Yuji did not hesitate and charged out, and then all the cursed spirits began to rush towards him. But Yuji resolved them all with just 2 moves. Yuji climbed up to the rooftop along the balcony and shouted out the news of Gojo Satoru's sealing to Kento. Hearing this, everyone quickly rushed to Yuji's side, because in Kento's view, if Gojo Satoru was truly sealed, the entire world of Jujutsu would also be doomed. Soon, Megumi and others joined Yuji upon hearing the message from Mekamaru. Kento immediately assigned tasks. Yuji and Megumi were responsible for removing the curtain that prohibited sorcerers from entering, while Kento planned to meet up with Ijichi first. At this moment, he was unaware of the impending danger. While Ijichi was focused on broadcasting information to everyone, Haruta suddenly assassinated him from behind. At the same time, Mahito realized that their actions had been exposed. He intended to leave before the sorcerers arrived, but Choso wanted to kill Yuji to avenge his brother. Jogo was displeased upon hearing this because he wanted to resurrect Sukuna through Yuji. However, Mahito pointed out that Gojo Satoru had been sealed, and their power was now evenly matched with that of Jujutsu High. Reviving Sukuna could pose an even greater threat. Jogo disagreed, and they decided that whoever encountered Yuji first would follow through with their own plan. Just then, Mahito and Choso ran out first. After everyone left, the twin sisters suddenly arrived. They did not want Kenjaku to continue manipulating Geto Suguru's body, but Kenjaku paid them no heed. They warned him that he would regret it. This was when Kento was most furious. Watching his friends fall one by one, Kento could no longer remain calm in the face of these cursed users. Reality had pushed him to a breaking point. Just after splitting from Yuji and others, Kento hurriedly went outside the tent where several auxiliary sorcerers had already been killed by the enemy. Seeing Ijichi lying in a pool of blood, Kento's anger reached its peak, and he quickly took him to the hospital. Meanwhile, Mei and Yuji also dealt with the cursed users around them. The outer curtain of the Shibuya district had been removed. Yuji intended to meet with Ino, but at that moment, Ino unexpectedly fell from a high building, having been defeated by the enemy. An old woman had used a spirit descent technique to resurrect Toji with the intention of having him continue to kill Yuji Fushiguro. However, the spirit descent technique suddenly lost control. Be careful whom you command. To prevent this, she had only allowed the physical descent of the spirit, but ultimately, Toji's body overpowered his spirit. Meanwhile, Maki and others were still exorcising the cursed spirits in the basement. They too realized that something unexpected had happened outside the curtain. Consequently, Nobara and Aratanita hurried to a shopping mall. Haruta blocked their way. Nobara wanted Aratanita to leave first, but Haruta used a cursed tool to stop her. Seeing this, Nobara ran to Aratanita's side without hesitation, intending to confront Haruta directly. However, Haruta's weapon was quite tricky, and Nobara was knocked down with a punch. The two were in a dire situation as Haruta began to torture Aratanita. Just as he was about to kill them, Kento suddenly arrived. Seeing the weapon in Haruta's hand, Kento was certain that Ijichi had died at his hands. Haruta tried to counterattack, but in the next moment, Kento punched him away. At that moment, Haruta also realized that something was amiss. If he hadn't used his technique just now, he would have already become a corpse. Kento could no longer control his emotions and smashed his fist into Haruta with tremendous force, but just then, Haruta's weapon flew over from behind. Fortunately, Nobara arrived just in time to block it. Kento decided not to show mercy anymore. Meanwhile, after dealing with the curse users, Mei directly went to the lowest level of the subway station, where Kenjaku had been waiting for a long time. Mei looked at Geto Suguru before her, filled with confusion. She had thought that Gojo Satoru should have killed him earlier, but she soon dismissed this idea. Just then, Kenjaku summoned the special grade curse spirit, Smallpox Deity. If Mei could exorcise it, she would qualify as a contender against Kenjaku. After doing this, Geto Suguru left the area. At that moment, the curse spirit instantly activated its domain. Mei realized the seriousness of the situation and was soon trapped inside a coffin. The curse spirit intended to seal her in, but in the next moment Mei became excited. It had been a long time since she faced an opponent that threatened her life. Just then, Yuji successfully entered inside the curtain at the station entrance, which was crowded with cursed spirits. Feeling helpless, Yuji was suddenly joined by Toge, and together they made their way inside the station. However, as he entered the second underground level, Choso, who had been waiting there for a long time, quickly attacked Yuji. His enhanced blood even exceeded the speed of sound, with terrifying power and speed that Yuji could not defend against physically. At that moment, Choso asked him if his brother had any last words before dying, but Yuji said he only saw him shed tears. Hearing this, Choso instantly exploded with rage and unleashed his full power. His body burst out with copious amounts of blood, gradually forming a sphere. Yuji quickly stepped forward to stop him, but he was still terrified of Choso's blood manipulation technique. Eventually, Choso completed the charging of his blood. The two distanced themselves, and Yuji realized the severity of the situation. If the attack hit, he would undoubtedly die. Yuji then leapt into the air, and Choso also launched his skill, thinking he would hit his target. However, in the next moment, Yuji easily dodged. He continued to close the distance between them. As they neared each other, Choso launched a new technique, catching Yuji off guard. By the time he reacted, Choso was already prepared for the next attack. It seemed the strike would penetrate Yuji's body, but due to insufficient compression, the blood's power significantly decreased. Yuji was caught in a dilemma. Then, just at that moment, Mekamaru spoke up, suggesting Yuji run into the restroom. Without hesitation, Yuji dashed into the restroom, with Choso following. Choso thought Yuji had no escape, but suddenly the manipulation technique went out of control. The presence of water caused massive cellular destruction, and 45% of the blood components lost control, preventing Choso from manipulating the blood outside his body. Seeing his chance, Yuji began his counterattack. The two exchanged blows in the confined space, gradually with Yuji gaining the upper hand. In the next second, seizing the opportunity, Choso unleashed his technique, and Yuji's liver was pierced. Observing this, Choso intended to press his advantage, but unexpectedly, Yuji didn't fall. Instead, he wrapped his fist in his own blood and charged again into the fray. Yuji was gradually pushed back, but then found a chance to cover his opponent's eyes with his hands and launched an attack with his injured left hand. However, in the next moment, he froze on the spot because Choso had anticipated his move. Yuji's strike landed on Choso's crimson blood armor. By this time, Yuji had lost consciousness, and Sukuna was disdainful, thinking Yuji's life was at its end. However, Choso stopped his attack as the fusion of blood gave him memories he had never experienced before, revealing that Yuji was his half-brother from the same father. Meanwhile, Mei Mei was dragged into a domain by Kenjaku's special-grade curse spirit, smallpox deity. The curse spirit's technique could seal an opponent inside a coffin. If Mei Mei couldn't escape the coffin within 3 seconds, she would succumb to illness and die. Already hit once by a tombstone, 2 more strikes would mean she wouldn't leave alive. Mei Mei then transferred her cursed energy to a crow, but in an instant the crow was sealed in the coffin and swiftly obliterated by the tombstone, confirming Mei Mei's suspicion that the curse spirit targeted the strongest cursed energy within its domain. To eliminate the curse spirit, someone needed to divert its attention. Just then, Ui Ui stepped forward, drawing the curse spirit's focus. As it prepared to seal him, Mei Mei suddenly appeared in front of the curse spirit, and in a swift movement, chopped off its arms. Mei Mei had allowed Ui Ui to risk his life to enable her to use her technique. The curse spirit then vanished from the domain, and Mei Mei cautiously surveyed her surroundings. However, the curse spirit attacked her again, and with a single strike, Mei Mei slashed the special grade curse spirit. This was her blackbird manipulation technique, which no one but Gojo Satoru could withstand. Simultaneously, Kento and Maki, along with others, reached the basement where, unexpectedly, they encountered another curse spirit. Before Kento and Maki could react, Naobito had already turned the curse spirit into a specimen, and then with a punch, he sent Dagon flying. Kento was perplexed by the sight, and at that moment, Dagon began vomiting uncontrollably, scattering white bones all around. Slowly, Dagon writhed, undergoing a startling transformation. It turned out that Dagon was previously in a cursed womb state and had now evolved into a cursed spirit. Kento and Maki distracted Dagon while the old man launched his technique, thinking they would easily exorcise it. However, Dagon remained unscathed, its health seemingly infinite. Then, as the 3 simultaneously struck at Dagon, it flew into the air. The old man kicked it back to the ground, achieving this level entirely through his powerful mirror ability and sense of timing. Just when they thought it was over, Dagon opened its domain, and suddenly, the surroundings turned into a vast sea with countless Shikigami attacking them. This technique was different from ordinary attacks, as within the domain, Shikigami could emerge endlessly. Kento and Naobito were completely restrained when Dagon was about to annihilate everyone. Suddenly, Fushiguro Megumi appeared from behind it, bringing a weapon for Maki. Seeing this, Dagon initially wanted to eliminate Megumi first, but with Maki's interference, its accuracy greatly decreased. Kento also moved to Megumi's side. As long as they could maintain the current situation, they had a chance to defeat Dagon. However, it was clear that Megumi's body was reaching its limits, so he prepared to forcibly tear open the domain to let everyone escape. But just as he was opening the domain, Fushiguro Toji suddenly entered through the portal. Just because the person didn't bow low enough, the man struck, causing blood to spray from his head. Did you think kneeling on one knee was enough? This was Jogo's closest moment to death. To successfully revive Sukuna, he took out 10 fingers at once. As the last finger was swallowed, Sukuna fully awakened. Seeing this, Jogo quickly retreated, but in an instant, Sukuna took his left arm. This is Sukuna, an overwhelming evil. Just now, Megumi successfully broke into Dagon's domain. He intended to tear open the barrier and transport everyone outside. But at that moment, Fushiguro Toji arrived. Everyone was confused because they couldn't sense any cursed energy from him. Then Toji casually snatched Maki's weapon. As a puppet resurrected by the summoning technique, he should have ceased to exist after the caster's death. But due to various coincidences, the technique lost its termination opportunity. Now, Toji had become a complete combat doll, only stopping when his body was destroyed. This is the killing intent aimed at the strong. So the moment he stepped in, Dagon became the primary target. The two began a fierce battle. Countless Shikigami crazily lunged at Toji. The once powerful cursed spirit was now powerless. Dagon was beaten back repeatedly. Then Toji charged at him again. They engaged in a close combat. Dagon was helpless against Toji's weapon. At this moment, Megumi's cursed energy was nearly exhausted, but for the sake of victory, he had to hold on a bit longer. Toji began sharpening his weapon, transforming it into a new one. Dagon realized the dire situation, so he tried to stall for time. Once Megumi's cursed energy was drained, he could kill everyone here. Dagon leaped into the air without hesitation. The old man suddenly appeared behind him. He had already seen through Dagon's intent. Toji leaped into the air. The old man kicked Dagon towards Toji, who instantly pierced him with a sharp weapon. Thus, Dagon was exorcised by Toji. They all returned to reality. Toji slowly approached the group. As they were still in confusion, Toji threw Megumi out. Maki wanted to chase after him, but Jogo had already arrived. Seeing Dagon exorcised, Jogo was filled with rage. He decided to kill all the sorcerers here. He suddenly appeared in front of Kento. The old man couldn't sit idly by, so he used curse techniques to teleport frantically. But with a casual wave, Jogo turned the old man's body to char. As Jogo prepared to deliver the final blow, Sukuna's sensing suddenly shocked him. It turned out that Nanako and Mimiko were giving Yuji Sukuna's fingers. Jogo rushed over following the sensing. Seeing Sukuna's mark still present, Jogo had a bold idea. If Yuji swallowed 10 fingers at once, Sukuna would temporarily take over his body. He took out a scroll with 10 fingers and fed them all to Yuji. However, the next moment, Jogo's arm had already disappeared. Sukuna had fully awakened. Seeing this, Jogo quickly retreated. His power was completely different from Gojo Satoru's. Everyone was too scared to move. Anyone in front of him had to bow down. Meanwhile, the two sisters began to beg him to kill Kenjaku. If Sukuna helped them, they would reveal the location of another finger. But Sukuna mercilessly killed them. Jogo was terrified. He wanted Sukuna to quickly form a pact with Yuji for control over the body. But Sukuna scoffed at the idea. He already had his own plan. To thank Jogo for the 10 fingers, Sukuna said he would help if Jogo could touch him. The King of Curses, Sukuna, had returned. Jogo thought Sukuna's technique was cutting and slashing, but Sukuna was also a master of fire. In the end, Jogo died by the flames he knew so well. Just now, the fight between Megumi and his father was about to begin, but they both sensed Sukuna's presence. Megumi wanted to use his technique to escape, but Toji's speed was too fast. Megumi was no match for him. He started to run frantically. Even without cursed energy, Toji could always find him. Just as Toji thought the fight was over, a pipe inside the building burst. Megumi used a Shikigami to launch a surprise attack, but it had no effect on Toji. He wanted to buy time. Then, Toji charged at Megumi again. If he missed this chance, Megumi would die. Toji's weapon pierced his body. At the same time, Megumi drew a long sword. As he was about to strike, Toji stepped back. His heart was filled with shock. The boy in front of him was his son. He had once made a deal with Zenin K. If Megumi joined Zenin and awakened his technique, Toji would receive a large sum of money. Toji thought it would be better for Megumi to join Zenin than stay with him, so he agreed. Toji asked Megumi for his name. Upon hearing the answer, Toji seemed relieved. He then ended his own life with his weapon. The technique was undone and Toji's body returned to its original form. Megumi rushed to Maki's side, but Haruta launched a sneak attack from behind. Meanwhile, Panda was outside looking for an entrance to the 5th underground level. They encountered several sorcerers. As they prepared to fight back, an explosion occurred outside the city. Sukuna and Jogo's battle had begun. To get Sukuna's help, Jogo risked his life to challenge him. But reality was harsh. Jogo was no match for him. Atsuya and the others sensed the danger. Any mistake could result in instant death. As they were about to flee, Sukuna appeared beside them. He ordered them not to move. Breaking the command would have severe consequences. At this moment, Jogo's fireball was approaching them. Sukuna was still counting down slowly. As he clapped his hands, everyone fled the battlefield quickly. The massive fireball destroyed the entire area. Jogo thought this attack would hit Sukuna, but Sukuna dodged it at the last moment. Sukuna asked why Jogo didn't use his domain. Jogo admitted that even using his domain wouldn't secure a victory. Hearing this, Sukuna became interested. He decided to defeat Jogo using Jogo's own specialty. Jogo stayed in place, realizing his opponent was also a master of fire. Left with no choice, Jogo used his flames. This was his last chance to gain Sukuna's help, but in an instant, Jogo was defeated. Mahito became their final hope. Sukuna watched Jogo silently. Suddenly, a figure appeared behind him. It was an old acquaintance. Just now, Megumi was pushed to the brink by the sorcerer Haruta. In desperation, Megumi decided to summon the strongest Shikigami, Makora. No sorcerer in history had ever tamed this Shikigami. Megumi's action was tantamount to suicide. Makora's first strike put Megumi in a near-death state. Then, it turned its focus to Haruta. As Makora was about to kill Haruta, Sukuna suddenly arrived. To save Megumi, Sukuna had to defeat this Shikigami. The battle began quickly. Makora slashed fiercely at Sukuna, but Sukuna dodged in a flash. Sukuna then used his slashing technique on Makora, but it had little effect. Makora recovered instantly after each cut. Sukuna grew more interested. He increased the power of his slashing technique, but it still couldn't harm Makora. The two continued their intense battle. The destructive force shattered Shibuya. Makora integrated cursed energy into its attacks. Sukuna was shocked that the Shikigami could see through his moves. He started using rapid slashes. Skyscrapers fell before this phenomenal power. Sukuna figured out Makora's ability. It was the strongest predictive adaptation. In the past, Sukuna might have lost, but now he was much stronger. Domain expansion. This domain didn't separate space with a barrier. It materialized the domain. Within a 200-meter radius, all of Sukuna's attacks would hit. Makora inside the domain would be constantly cut by two types of slashes. The only way to defeat it was to use an unfamiliar move and kill it before it adapted. Sukuna used his flames again. An explosion centered on Makora lit up Shibuya like the sun. Makora was finally defeated. Shibuya lay in ruins. Sukuna brought Megumi to the principal. Yuji's consciousness reawakened. Seeing the devastation, Yuji was devastated. All of Sukuna's actions were imprinted in his memory. At this moment, Yuji only wanted to die, but he quickly calmed down. He had no choice but to fight. This was Kento's loneliest moment. Jogo's flames had burned half of his body. Yet, as a sorcerer, Kento still clung to his beliefs. Seeing the pitiful transformed humans before him, Kento made his final decision. Like a soulless zombie, he swung his short knife aimlessly in the underground station. One by one, the transformed humans fell around him. Kento was like a merciless killing machine. After he had dealt with all the transformed humans, Mahito suddenly appeared behind him. He realized his life was at its end. Though Kento felt all he had done was in vain, his kind nature led him to find peace. Yuji, it's up to you now. Yuji watched everything in a daze. His anger had driven him to the edge of sanity. He charged at Mahito furiously. Yuji only wanted to tear Mahito apart, but Mahito summoned his transformed humans again. Yuji intended to punch them, but hesitated at their pleas for mercy. The cursed spirit suddenly sprouted countless spikes. Yuji used his body to deflect them. Mahito unleashed a series of transformed humans. Yuji was flung out like a cannonball. The cursed spirit's body grew larger, filling the entire corridor. A cut appeared on Yuji's face. He couldn't tolerate Mahito's casual disregard for human life. The two clashed again. In the confined space, Mahito's curse techniques had the upper hand, but Yuji wasn't as easy to deal with as Mahito thought. The next moment, both emerged from the curse walls. Mahito, with his transformed body, attacked Yuji wildly. Yuji suddenly hid in an elevator. As the elevator descended rapidly, Yuji prepared for battle. The next moment, Mahito burst through the elevator ceiling. In the cramped space, they exchanged punches. But Yuji couldn't land a blow on him. Yuji noticed Mahito's attacks were more varied than before. He needed to end the fight quickly. Mahito began to flee. Yuji chased him without hesitation. Turning a corner, two humans greeted him. Yuji wanted them to leave, but they transformed into curses and attacked him. Yuji was thrown out again. Mahito's goal was to exhaust his spirit. If Yuji's spirit broke, they would secure another victory card. Meanwhile, Nobara encountered another Mahito outside. When he gambled with Jogo, he unlocked his clone. If he killed the woman before him, Mahito could crush Yuji's spirit completely. Nobara was unaware of the impending danger. Nobara used resonance again. Mahito's clone suffered severe damage. This clever strike prevented Mahito's sneak attack on Yuji. Yuji began a frenzied counterattack. Mahito, weakened by the resonance technique, couldn't fight back. Just before this, as Yuji climbed the stairs, Mahito flung several people at him. Yuji wanted to save them, but the transformed humans exploded. Yuji sensed danger immediately. Mahito appeared behind him. Meanwhile, Nobara continued fighting Mahito. Although it was just a clone, its combat power was no less than a grade 1 curse. To prevent Mahito from touching her soul nails, Nobara kept her distance. Mahito noticed this. As a clone, he could change his shape, but couldn't touch her soul. So, he decided to exhaust her energy. His hand turned into a blade and slashed at Nobara. The powerful strike injured her arm. Just as Mahito thought the fight was over, Nobara fired several cursed nails around him. Mahito was puzzled. Suddenly, the nails on the ground pierced his body. Nobara jumped above him and drove the cursed nails into him. She then used her resonance technique. This attack severely damaged Mahito's body. Yuji felt Nobara's cursed energy. He launched a frenzied counterattack. Because of Nobara's technique, Mahito couldn't fight back. Each of Yuji's punches was filled with hate for the curse. In this war, he couldn't save anyone. Despite this, Yuji chose to keep fighting. As Yuji prepared to finish Mahito, Mahito's body suddenly split. Yuji couldn't locate the real Mahito. Mahito escaped. Meanwhile, Mahito's clone, heavily injured by Nobara, also fled. Nobara chased after it. As they entered the subway corridor, Mahito and his clone reunited. Yuji was shocked but realized Mahito's plan when he saw Nobara. "Run, Nobara!" Mahito's real body touched Nobara's soul. Yuji punched him into the wall. In just 2.5 seconds, Nobara recalled her life. Her face began to mutate. Nobara fell before Yuji. You couldn't imagine that Mahito, a curse, landed the most devastating black flash. Yuji watched Nobara fall, breaking his spirit. The contrast between reality and his ideals suffocated Yuji. Mahito seized the chance and charged at him. This time, he wouldn't give Yuji a moment to breathe. Black flash. The powerful strike left Yuji incapacitated. Mahito began to torment him. Mahito's twisted heart found satisfaction in this. As he prepared to end Yuji's life, a clap sounded nearby. Mahito was shocked. At this crucial moment, Aoi Todo arrived and saved Yuji. Mahito was stunned but quickly recognized Aoi. Aoi once pushed the special grade curse Hanami to the brink. At this moment, Aoi woke up Yuji. He wanted him to stand and fight, but Yuji's spirit had already collapsed. He blamed himself for the death of his comrades. Mahito attacked them. Aoi used his boogie-woogie technique to dodge easily. He then kicked Mahito away. Interesting, Aoi started helping Yuji regain his faith. As long as they, as sorcerers, were alive, their fallen comrades hadn't truly lost. Finding meaning or reason in each death could sometimes desecrate the dead. They entrusted everything to you. You don't need to find the answer immediately, but you must not stop. Yuji realized the truth. Aoi was indeed a true mentor. Just then, Arata Nida used his technique on Yuji and Nobara. Yuji's injuries were temporarily relieved. Nobara still had a chance to survive. Hearing this, Yuji's fighting spirit reignited. At this moment, Aoi charged at Mahito. With Boogie Woogie, Mahito was disoriented, but he quickly adapted. Mahito threw a curse at Aoi, trying to force him to use Boogie Woogie. Instead, Yuji appeared before Mahito. Yuji apologized for his despair and using guilt as an excuse. He turned his sorrow into strength. A black flash struck Mahito. After a long time, the duo was back in action. They launched a flurry of attacks at Mahito. Aoi's non-living object switching surprised Mahito. Mahito tried to draw the battle into the basement. His soul power was still at 40%. Aoi's switching troubled him, so he targeted Aoi. They exchanged blows in the complex basement. Mahito tried to touch Aoi's soul, but Aoi's agility was superior. Mahito was kicked into an elevator. Aoi and Yuji regrouped. Yuji threw a rock at Mahito. Aoi used Boogie Woogie to switch in front of Mahito. Both Yuji and Mahito used Black Flash. Aoi didn't want to fall behind. Encouraged, Aoi landed a Black Flash on Mahito. All three tapped into their full potential. Mahito realized it was time to go all out. He taunted Yuji, becoming nearly insane. No one could use Black Flash at will, but Yuji was different. With Aoi's support, Yuji struck Mahito with another Black Flash. This time, Yuji focused all his cursed energy. Black Flash! The battle between Mahito and Yuji reached its peak. Aoi and Yuji were in sync. After a brief standoff, Aoi used his technique to bring Mahito in front of him. Yuji attacked immediately. Mahito detached his head to evade. They attacked Mahito's body relentlessly. Mahito used multiple soul-modified humans. Combining weakly rejected souls, he created a new multi-soul entity. At this moment, Aoi noticed Mahito's cursed energy distribution. He used Boogie Woogie to send Mahito to Yuji. Aoi then dealt with the powerful modified humans. He thought he could quickly defeat them. But the next moment, the modified humans knocked Aoi away. These multi-soul entities gained explosive power by burning their souls. Their attack power far exceeded ordinary curses. They had strong power but died in one hit. Just then, Mahito retracted his clone. He wanted to finish Yuji while they were separated. Countless curses rose from the ground. Yuji was thrust into the air. The curses attacked him like mad dogs. Yuji kicked at Mahito, but Mahito threw him away. Mahito tried to press his advantage, but Aoi arrived. Mahito knew he needed to deploy his domain to touch Aoi, but using the domain would get him devoured by Sukuna. So Mahito decided to mimic Gojo Satoru and use a 0.2 second domain expansion. Domain expansion. Both Aoi and Yuji were shocked. Aoi quickly used his simple domain. Meanwhile, Yuji ran towards Mahito. He wanted to interrupt Mahito's technique, but Mahito suddenly targeted Aoi. His arm started to morph. Aoi quickly cut it off. To protect himself, he had to. Then Mahito appeared before Aoi. Though his technique was temporarily disabled after closing the domain, he still landed a Black Flash. Mahito succeeded in hitting Aoi with a Black Flash. Aoi shielded his abdomen with cursed energy but was still heavily injured. Mahito's technique restored. He charged at Aoi again. This blow was expected to be fatal, but he faced Yuji instead. Aoi had touched Mahito's technique with his hand. His hand was badly damaged, but it was a miracle he managed it. Aoi's body reached its limit. Yuji continued to fight, inheriting Aoi's will. Meanwhile, Mahito took a Black Flash hit but finally grasped the essence of his soul. Transfiguration. True form. This was his transformed state. After using the Black Flash, he found his soul's essence. The two clashed again. Yuji thought only Mahito's appearance had changed, but when his fist hit Mahito, he realized he was wrong. Mahito's body was harder than Choso's blood armor. As Yuji tried to retreat, Mahito's body morphed. A blade-like spike cut Yuji's arm. Mahito didn't want to give him a chance to breathe. He charged at Yuji again. They exchanged blows in the open space. Mahito had reached a new level. Gradually, Yuji fell behind. Mahito's transformation left Yuji with no chance to counterattack. To defeat him, Yuji needed to use maximum cursed energy for a Black Flash. This was his only way to win the battle. Mahito hadn't realized the danger approaching. He launched another attack at Yuji. The terrifying power sent huge waves across the lake. Mahito tried to ambush Yuji, but Yuji was already prepared to unleash a Black Flash. Mahito quickly distanced himself, startled. He now believed Yuji could use Black Flash at will. Mahito decided to confront Yuji head-on. He charged behind Yuji. As Yuji threw a punch, Mahito met it with his own fist. Yuji's attack caught Mahito off guard. As Mahito tried to strike Yuji with his other hand, Aoi suddenly appeared. Mahito thought Aoi would use Boogie Woogie, but Aoi was deceiving him. Mahito's attack missed. Yuji's Black Flash hit Mahito solidly. Mahito was now completely incapacitated. Yuji was no longer the emotional boy he once was. He vowed to exterminate all curses. Mahito was terrified. But just then, a figure appeared. Geto Suguru. This was Mahito's most desperate moment. Yuji and Aoi's perfect coordination had utterly defeated him. Mahito desperately tried to escape. But Yuji's killing intent engulfed him like winter's chill. Mahito thought his life was over. But then, another figure appeared before him, Kenjaku, the mastermind behind the Shibuya incident. Mahito clung to him like a lifeline, hoping for salvation. But Kenjaku absorbed Mahito using cursed spirit manipulation. Moments earlier, Kenjaku had appeared before Mahito. Upon hearing Geto Suguru's name, Yuji realized Gojo Satoru was within him. Yuji charged at Kenjaku. As Yuji neared, Kenjaku summoned his cursed spirit, Great Catfish. Instantly, Yuji felt like he had fallen into an abyss, but to others, he just collapsed. This was the unique feature of cursed spirit manipulation. It can control multiple curses simultaneously in battle. If the technique is seen through, Kenjaku can summon new curses. Yuji charged again. Kenjaku summoned another curse without hesitation. The powerful impact prevented Yuji from approaching. If Geto Suguru hadn't divided his forces during the night parade of 100 demons, Okatsu wouldn't have won. It would have been Geto Suguru's victory. Yuji was now covered in injuries. As Kenjaku marveled at Yuji's physical resilience, Mahito suddenly attacked from behind. Born from humans, Mahito understood Kenjaku's thoughts well. He aimed to strike before being absorbed, but Kenjaku was prepared. Yuji was shocked. In the next moment, Kenjaku turned Mahito into a vortex. This technique, second only to a domain, merges absorbed curses into a high-density attack. Initially, Kenjaku thought it was an ordinary technique, but he later realized its true value. The technique allows for the extraction of abilities after consuming the vortex. At this point, Momo discovered Kenjaku's location. Kamo, upon hearing the news, immediately shot countless arrows at him. A huge explosion erupted around Kenjaku. Although Kamo's attack hit, it seemed to cause no real damage. As Kenjaku distanced himself, he also blocked Mai's bullets. But before he could celebrate, Kasumi appeared behind him. This strike was crucial. She poured everything from the past and future into it, even if she could never wield a blade again. She drew her sword. Kenjaku was prepared. He instantly countered Kasumi's draw. Kenjaku then used his vortex technique. A curse resembling Mahito charged at her. It seemed Kasumi was doomed. But at the next moment, Atsuya and others arrived. They successfully blocked the vortex's impact. Choso also appeared. His heart was pounding wildly, all because of Kenjaku. Choso's parents included his mother, a curse that planted the seed, and Kamo, who injected blood during his mother's pregnancy. Everyone was shocked to learn that Geto Suguru was the most dangerous sorcerer of the Kamo family. Choso's anger reached its peak. As he prepared to attack, Uraume appeared. Choso didn't hesitate. He wanted to be a good brother. This shocked Kamo. In the next second, Choso's blood cutter shot at Uraume. Although Uraume caught it bare-handed, she felt immense pressure. Choso launched a more ferocious attack. Influenced by red blood manipulation, he could sense his brother's changes no matter the distance. Death is the greatest change for living beings. He had felt Yuji's death keenly. So, without a doubt, Yuji was his blood-related brother. As a brother, he couldn't tolerate Yuji being toyed with. The two were in fierce combat. This was the best chance to reclaim the domain. Just as they prepared to attack, Uraume suddenly activated her technique. Everyone was instantly frozen. Kenjaku told her to keep some alive. He needed someone to deliver a message. At that moment, Yuji broke Choso's ice. Momo seized the chance to attack Kenjaku and Uraume. Uraume responded with a more powerful curse technique, freezing everyone again. As Uraume was about to kill everyone, something unexpected happened. It was Tsukumo Yuki. A girl was eating furiously in an abandoned convenience store. Suddenly, a figure appeared at the entrance. Curious, the girl approached. As she stepped out, a curse lunged at her. It seemed the girl's life was over. But at the last moment, just then, special grade sorcerer Tsukumo Yuki saved the day. They talked about the evolution of curse techniques. Tsukumo Yuki believed the next stage for humans was to be free from cursed energy. Kenjaku thought it was the optimization of cursed energy. He believed Tsukumo Yuki had given up on this idea after Toji's death 12 years ago, but now it seemed she hadn't. Tsukumo Yuki just returned to her true self. The optimization plan has a major flaw. It relies on the Tengen barrier. Only people in this country can optimize their cursed energy into sorcery if they use the Tengen barrier. This would cause significant trouble. However, Kenjaku didn't care. He didn't want a world without curses, nor did he want a peaceful, ideal world. He wanted a new world filled with chaos and endless possibilities. At this moment, Kenjaku's technique extraction was complete. Tsukumo Yuki realized the danger. A curse lunged at the girl. Kenjaku successfully activated idol transfiguration. Mahito's technique couldn't be used remotely before, but it evolved during his battle with Yuji. Thus, Kenjaku successfully marked two types of humans with evolutionary potential. One type is like Yuji, who absorbed cursed objects. The other type is like Yoshino Junpei, who has a technique but a non-sorcerer brain structure. Kenjaku transformed these people's brains into a sorcerer's structure. Through idol transfiguration, he deepened their understanding of cursed energy. Afterward, these people would kill each other. Simply put, Kenjaku released 1,000 evil Yujis. At that moment, Uram's technique suddenly deactivated. She used reverse curse technique to gain a physical body upon revival. Now, Uram was poisoned by Choso's blood. Although everyone broke free from the bindings, Shibuya had already fallen into the abyss. From now on, the world would be dominated by curses. Countless curses suddenly appeared on the ground. Kenjaku vanished into the darkness with the prison realm. Yuji shouted for his teacher. Kenjaku looked forward to the future days. He would usher in the golden age of sorcery again, the Heian era. Afterward, Shibuya went into complete blackout mode. All citizens were in panic. After complex deliberations, the high officials decided to reveal the existence of curses to the public. Meanwhile, a little girl was eating furiously in a convenience store. As she was enjoying her food, a figure appeared at the entrance. The girl was curious. She thought the person could help her find her mom. But as she stepped out of the convenience store, a giant curse lunged at her. The girl was petrified. Just then, a figure jumped down from the sky. The curse was instantly defeated. It was the pure love warrior, Okatsu. As he comforted the girl, the curse revived. But before it could attack, Rika instantly obliterated the curse. Since the Shibuya incident, the higher-ups began to act. Okatsu was ordered to kill Yuji. Gojo Satoru was exiled from the sorcery world due to the Shibuya incident. Geto and Yaga were sentenced to death as the orchestrators of the Shibuya incident.